Morning folks, it's quite cold this morning. I'm up and about early. I've already had my breakfast. I had my porridge and my coffee in my sleeping bag this morning. So much easier when there's no wind in the morning, folks, getting the tent away. You've got to be careful not to stand on these poles when you're taking the tent down or putting it up. got this tent in a heavy duty dry bag, folks. It's obviously not to keep it dry, it's just to make sure that it doesn't get damaged when I'm on the trails and stuff. I'm dropping the bike and damage my tent with a sharp rock or a bit of vegetation at the side of the track or something like that. I'm so glad I decided to bring my bigger tent with me. It was quite comfortable last night, relaxing in the bigger tent, plenty of room, and I was able to cook up. That's me more or less done, folks. I'm going to put my waterproofs back on today, just for the first wee bit, and dry them off, and the track is pretty wet, so it'll keep the crud off me, off my inner layers. So it's a shield against the mud and the grime more than anything, but it'll also dry everything off for me. And I've taken my warm layer off, so it is actually quite cold. I'm warm just now because I've been running around filming and breaking camp, but once I get on the bike I'll cool down a bit, I'm sure. Until the first hill, and then I'll warm up a bit. Oh, that helmet is cold and wet. That'll soon warm up. The last strap, that's for tying the tripod on the back of the bike. Quick check around, make sure I haven't lost anything, haven't forgotten anything. Laid it down and forgot to pick it up. We're all good. Big day today, got a lot of kilometres to cover today, folks. Let's get on the trail. So I'm up past down the Spiddle, folks. This is actually the old A9 that I'm on, and if you listen out you'll hear the trucks thundering past away up to the right on the new A9. So this is the Dromoctor Hills that you're looking at. Benudo Main there with the clouds sitting on the top. So I'm heading along towards Dalwhinnie, and I can follow this cycleway. It's part of the National Cycleway Network. I think it's Cycle Route 7 that I'm on now. So although I've got the noise of the traffic over my shoulder, I've got a lovely cycle, traffic free and on a good track, so no bumping and shuggling for an hour or so this morning. I'll roll the camera for a minute or two, but then the wind noise will get too much, I'll turn it off. Got an admission to make, folks. About cycling along the side of the A9. I prefer not to have the A9 for company on this bit, but actually this route that I'm doing, I really enjoy this section because it's a complete respite from the track work. It's smooth, it's fast, Although there's a climb to get up here, and this is the second highest road in Scotland, I believe, the Dromoctor summit. Might be wrong there, there's a few. But the Lect, where Mo and I camped in the van a couple of months back there, that's the highest road. And then the Cairnwell is maybe the second. And then either the Dromoctor or the Slot summits. Anyway, you get the picture. I'm on one of the highest roads in Scotland. So getting up here is a bit of a pull, but once you're on the high ground, it's relatively flat. Undulates. You can see I'm not pedaling just now, I'm just cruising. So I'm just at the head of Loch Ericht here, or the foot, depending on which way you orientate yourself. I'm at the Dalwhinnie end of Loch Ericht. I'm on a beautiful track. I've got this for a good few kilometres, but I'm making good time, folks. It's still it's not mid-morning yet, to be honest. I made cracking time along the side of the A9 there on the cycleway. Let me show you where we are. It's a glorious view. I'm not going to stop much and set the tripod up on this bit, but I promise you I will do some more high quality filming. High quality. Oops, sorry, I've fallen off my bike there. I'll do a bit better filming as the day progresses, but for now I'll just grab the camera and I'll pan it round, show you where I am. So there we are, folks, looking right down Loch Ericht, away down to the big hills, Ben Alder and Benville, and this is my track here, a beautiful track. So I've got to get about halfway down this loch, so it's a long way to go yet. You can't see the full length of the loch, it bends away to the left there. So let me strap you back to the handlebars. We'll get a few more kilometres under the wheels. I was chuntering on earlier about the hills at the bottom of the loch, and you couldn't actually see them. I've stopped here. You can maybe just pick them out away in the distance. Just stop here and give you a view down the loch, folks. You may just about be able to make out the lodge. I'm just going a little bit past the lodge and then start climbing. These rocks over there, I call them Eagle Rocks because there's a golden eagle, a pair of golden eagles nest up in there. I haven't seen them this morning. I've warmed up nicely, folks, and I'm pretty sure there's no more risk of rain today, so I'm going to lose my shell layer. I've got a big climb coming up, so it's going to be warm, so I can take this off. If I'm a bit cold when I get higher up, I can put my top back on, but I don't think I'll need the waterproof trousers again today. Stags are roaring this morning. Should be able to get these in the front stuff sack here. There's a wee space in the top, so probably don't need to take anything off here. Just need to slacken this strap, pop them in here. There we go. That's one. I've actually put this one in I think I'll do that. I'll put it in my wee rucksack. If there's a chance that I'll need it later on. It'll be a bit cooler up there. There we go, that was easy. This one's dry, it can go in my rucksack beside my lunch. Talking about lunch, what time is it? I've been on the go since early doors, so too early for lunch though. I like to trap just the right amount of air in this bag so it's cushioned on my back. I've said several times I don't like carrying a rucksack when I'm cycling, but for the camera gear, the electronics, it makes sense to have them here where I can protect them a bit from the vibration inside the wee balloon. Well, having an easier day than I had yesterday so far. It's Loch Puttock there, folks. I'm a few kilometres past the end of the good track, heading in this direction here on this track, which just gets boggier and boggier. So I'm cycling just now, but I'm going to be hiking in a wee while. I'm making good progress today though. I stopped and did a wee bit of filming for you, some trackside stuff. But I'm going to strap the camera to the front of the bike now, and I'll just put it on here and there. Let me give you another wee look at Loch Puttock there in the hills. Back to the bog, folks, but it's not nearly as bad so far anyway as I expected. I've cycled all the way to here. I'm going to get off and push this bit because I'll be slip sliding, and if I take a tumble I won't hurt myself at this speed, but I will get mighty muddy. So time for a wee walk. Yeah, just as I thought, that mud is quite deep, tyre sucking. To be fair, the bike looks heavy, but there's a lot of bulk on it. It's not actually that heavy until you start pushing it through stuff like this, and then you realise when you're trying to shift all this mud in front of you, it's quite hard going. So I'm onto the better track now, folks. In fact, I've been on it for several kilometres, maybe as many as 10. I'm quite low down now and I'm heading in this direction over my shoulder here. So I'm cracking on. I might put the camera on the front of the bike and switch it on and give you a wee Sugarland shake. It's quite fast going down here, but the camera on the bike is not much good. I just missed it for you, folks. Deer running across the track. There's some more hinds further down. The stag just crossed the track. Let me go on and see if I can get the deer for you. It'd be difficult for the camera to pick them out. Let me turn the camera. Odd angle there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 hinds running across there, and the stag, there's 2 hinds away in the front and the stag is in the middle. You can maybe just see them there. You'll see the movement, they're well disguised. So you see that birch woodland over there? Way in the distance. I've got you well zoomed in so you'll probably be able to see it. That's where I'm heading. I just realised I was filming that with mud on the camera lens. Hey, so there's the birch woodland, folks. Oh, it's a bonny bit of woodland this. I absolutely love this spot. It took a bit of effort to get here, a wee bit of contouring and a wee bit of climbing, but I'm round and I'm going to enter the woodland very shortly and cycle downhill on a reasonably good track through this woodland until I get into some coniferous forest. Absolutely gorgeous at this time of the year. Trying to position myself so my shadow is across the lens, folks. I've got you at a jaunty angle there. You're still perched on the front of the bike and you're looking directly into the sun. The track that I was following that I was a little bit unsure of turned out to be the right one, so I'm on the right track now. I've still got a little under 4 hours of daylight left, or maybe around 4 hours actually. So I'm going to have a very quick bite to eat here and I'm going to keep pedalling onwards. I'm not sure how far I'll get today, but I'm going to pass my planned camping spot in about 20 minutes or half an hour's time, and I'm not going to worry about it. I'll give it a wave as I go past, but I'm going to keep going, see if I can get further on. There's a couple of reasons for that. The main one is that I'm really enjoying the workout, just being on the bike and letting it roll. But the second reason is there's a front coming across on Thursday which is bringing some really terrible weather. And actually it's not a storm or anything, it's just torrential rain, and terrible for filming and terrible for cycling, to be honest, especially off-road. So I may crack on and see if I can get this circuit done in 3 days rather than the planned 4 days. Well, there's a view, folks. Isn't that bonny? Down the track a ways you can see a little point going out into the loch there with some conifer trees on it, past these birch trees and that rowan tree that's in the foreground there. So that's my camping spot, but I'm really enjoying the movement on this trip. So I'm going to spin right past there, and then I'm going to drop down into Glen Spean, and then to get a remote-ish camp spot I'm going to have to climb. So I'm not going to have a camp spot anywhere near as pretty as this, but I am really enjoying the movement, so I'm going to keep going. That wee hill on the right there across the loch is one of the Binions. There's Binion Shoes and Binion Shees. Can't remember which way around it is, and the loch is Loch na Aber, I think, if I pronounce it very slowly. I'll have more of a chance of getting it right. I haven't had the camera on for a while, folks. I've been making distance. I'm at the bottom of the second loch now. I'm looking down westwards. Let me see, what can I point out? There's two hills there, the two pointy ones that are a wee bit to the right, this yin and that yin. The Monroe baggers amongst you will know what I'm talking about. So I'm not going as far as them. I'm going to cross to the right after I get to the bottom of the loch, and then I'm going to drop down steeply into Glen Spean, and then I'm going to start climbing again. So that's where I've come from, folks. Apologies for not doing any trackside filming for you, but you can see the low spot at the end of the loch with a wee bit of trees. So these are the trees that I was getting a little bit confused in, and I had to make sure that I was on the right track. There's two tracks that look very similar, but only one of them goes to the head of the loch there, so up and about there someplace. That's where, and then I came down this side here. Let me spin you around and show you the track. I don't know if you can see that, there's swans on the track, but there's another track that goes to the right there that you can get over when this track floods. Completely underwater just now. Well, when I came down from the twin lochs, I was quite cold, but I'm not cold now. That's the first of two huge climbs over with. So I actually drop down again and then start all over again. But my other GoPro's out of power now, so I'm on this one. I'm going to strap it on the front. I'll try and do a wee bit chat as I cycle up the hill, and then I'll give you a view from the top. I'm not sure that I'll get much beyond the top of the hill. It might be another trackside camp tonight because I'm going to be short of daylight. Anyhow. Now, folks, I'm pretty sure that I go straight on here. This is my junction where I need to bear left. Well, folks, this is brutal. I'm enjoying it. There's one subscriber who will know full well how hard I'm working here. Shout out to John. Well, he's not a subscriber, he's a good friend. We made friends through the channel. He's joined me on 2 or 3 trips, 3 trips actually, a couple of bike trips, both very full on, and an epic crossing of Rannoch Moor in the canoe. 2 canoes. John had his big prospector and he did an amazing job on that trip. Well, thanks for letting me park at your place, John, and you'll be very familiar with how I'm feeling now, climbing up and out of Glen Spean, heading for this distant Bealach that I can't even see yet, and a view down to Strathossian. There you go, folks, I'm up and over. That's looking down into Strathossian. I've got about an hour before, maybe a wee bit less, before I really need to get that tent up and get some shelter. Let me zoom you in a bit, if I can. There you go. So that's where I'm heading. So a lot of downhill and a little bit of uphill. So I might have to put another layer on in a minute or two. So that mountain away to the left is where I was a few hours ago. I came down the right hand side of that. And that's where I'm heading. That's Strathossian there. I'm going away over there. So, just having a wee rest here, folks. Although I'm looking quite hot, I'm going to put a wind layer on because I've got quite a long downhill now. So I'll cool down a bit. So let me do that. My favourite time of the day for cycling, folks. Early morning and evening in the gloaming. But I'm a man with a mission. I'm on a mission. I've got to get a place to put my tent up, so when I spin round the corner here I should see Loch Ossian. There we are, folks, Loch Ossian. It's been a big day. So now I need to scout the loch side and see if I can find a place to camp. This track takes a bend away from the loch in a wee while, so it's whether I get a spot before the bend or whether I have to go on a bit. I feel my timings are pretty good. Still got about, let me have a look at my watch, see my timings are good. Yeah, I reckon I've got about 20-25 minutes before I really need to be putting the tent up. It's late in the day to go hiking, folks. I camped a wee spot down here. It's a little peninsula that sticks out into the loch. I camped there a number of years ago, so I'm going to go down and I'm hoping that it's dry enough, although it's very wet here. Although it's very wet here, there is a dry spot that I know. It might be a wee bit spongy after yesterday's rain, but I'm hoping that it will be okay. Only got about half an hour's worth of daylight left, so whatever I find down here, I'm going to have to make the most of it. Well, even if it's a bit damp, it's a lovely viewpoint. You can see up and down the loch. It's just a wee narrow peninsula, so a wee bit breezy here though. I don't remember there being a track out to this point, so I can see a little bit of fire damage, which tells me that other people have found it. Oh, here we are, there's the flat bit there. Is it going to be dry? Here we are, folks. Yeah, there's a little bit of a fire scar there. Looks like the peat has caught fire and tilt you over, turn you around, and the tree roots. But this bit of the grass here will do me fine with that view, and then the view down the loch on the other side. So I've got to crack on. How many times have I said that in this video? You'll be fed up hearing that. I've got to get a shift on and get my tent up before it gets dark. I'm going to find a place to park my bike about here against that tree there. Oh, which involves lifting it uphill, which I can just about manage. Right. You're not going to see me so well with this dark jacket on, but it's getting a bit cold, folks. I need a warmer layer. Chicken korma tonight, folks, and a cup of tea. And then another dessert. I'm going to have rice pudding again, so 2 nights in a row. And then maybe an after dinner mint and a cup of hot chocolate. I've got this kettle on a rolling boil, folks. If you're wondering about me taking water straight out the loch, I think it's safe enough. Just put it on a rolling boil, 2 to 3 minutes, it'll be absolutely fine. This is my second boil. My first boil is in here, hydrating my chicken korma, and I've got a cup of tea on the go. So while I'm waiting on this finishing off, I'll tell you a wee story. I used to own an old Land Rover. In fact, I had it for 25 years. I did about 250,000 miles in it, mostly in Scotland, although it did serve me well on a couple of further flung adventures, shall we say. Anyhow, I knew the stalker, the head stalker on this estate a long time ago, before all the investment was carried out and before the upgrade of the track that I cycle today. However, I knew him well enough that he would let me bring my Land Rover down here so I could camp here and go off and do the hills. I came in one winter's night in pitch dark conditions. Track was all snowed and iced over. Coming along this bit of track, and I was driving over a sheet of ice which collapsed, and the Land Rover came down heavily. And I don't know if it was the weight of the Land Rover or more likely just a load of freezing cold water up around the water pump. Anyway, it cracked the water pump. But I did get parked up there. I camped here, and then in the morning I went up and climbed Benalap, which is in behind me, and then I came down. I'm just going to turn this off, preserve a bit of gas. I will finish the story. I'm going to top up my tea as well. Just chat amongst yourselves while I'm doing this. So I climbed Benalap first. I got my priorities right, then I came down. I didn't know that I'd cracked the water pump. I thought that it was one of the hoses, and I knew that I had a box full of spares, so I changed the bottom hose. I thought it was. I changed the bottom hose. The top one, obviously I could see it quite well, seemed to be okay. And anyway, got the new hose on, started the Land Rover up, and water everywhere, and it was getting picked up by the fan and sprayed all over the electrics. And So I thought that's no good at all. Then I had a good crawl underneath and I realised the water pump's got a crack in it. So to cut a long story short, I managed to jerry-rig a cooling system by putting a big tank of water up on the roof and just running it down into the radiator. The radiator on a Land Rover is really big. It's designed for taking the vehicle across the Sahara, and it was sub-zero conditions. Anyway, I thought if I get up to the road end up near Lagan there, I can call the AA to come and get me. So I was going up the track fast to try and keep the air coming in to cool the system, and I hit a stone, which I later found out had done a little bit of damage. I also shook one of the side windows out as well, so this Land Rover was not in the best of conditions, shall we say. Anyway, I got up to the end of the track and back onto the road, which is just between Loch Lagan and Lagan Reservoir. That's where that little bit of land between these two bodies of water is where you get onto this track if you're coming from the road. Not the way that I came today through the hills. Anyway, I got to the road and everything was running fine, so I thought I'll just carry on. But I got further down the road and actually I was on the main road and I had a blowout, so when I hit the rock going up the track here, going a little bit too fast on the ice, I think I had damaged the side of the wheel, and it was causing the inner tube. It had inner tubes in this old Land Rover, big tyres as well, 750 R16, so big heavy tyres. It caused a blowout, and it was a proper blowout, it just exploded. But I carried 4 spare tyres on that Land Rover up on the roof, so it was easy enough to change, except I was on a particularly bad bit of the road. So between my window falling out, my water pump cracking and my tyre blowing up, it was an eventful journey here to climb Ben Alap. So I've climbed it many times since and not had such high drama with vehicles. I've climbed it using the train or coming in on my bicycle, which seems to be altogether a lot easier than a vintage Land Rover. Anyhow, I'm blethering. I've got my filming lamp on, so it's blinding me a wee bit. I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to tuck into my chicken korma, my cup of tea, and then I'm going to get some rice pudding on the go. But I will get back to you before bedtime, folks. We've still got a wee bit of daylight left, so it's 20 past 6. Not too bad. I'll have this wolfed down in 5 or 10 minutes, and then into the tent just before it gets properly dark. Let me get tucked into this. I'm quite hungry. I had some peaches for starter. I felt that I needed some liquid. I was just getting a wee bit dehydrated, so with getting slightly hypothermic yesterday and getting lightheaded with dehydration today, it's not an object lesson in how to conduct yourself in the hills, folks. But it's been a lot of fun, and it was definitely a bit of a pain fest today. It was a long way and a lot of up and down, but I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I know that I'll sleep well tonight. And if I decide to bail tomorrow, I know that I can get back to my car relatively easily tomorrow. So I say relatively easily. I've got to climb up to almost 600 meters with a bike on a narrow track, so it's a fair bit of work, but it's not going to take a tremendous amount of time. Then I've got 20 miles or 18 miles of road cycling to do to get back to the car, so I've got a fair bit of work tomorrow, but I'm not worried about time tomorrow, so I can lie in my sleeping bag a wee bit in the morning if I feel the need. I can rest up, let the old bones recover a wee bit. Right, dinner time, folks. Just holding this GoPro again, folks, rather than trying to balance it on a tripod. So what's the tent chat tonight? Last night it seemed to focus around cooking in the tent, which I must stress is not recommended. Pretty much all tents now come with a warning about that. No naked flame inside the tent, and keep the exits clear. taking a wee bit of a risk last night, but it was a foul night and I didn't fancy sitting out there. I didn't have a tarp with me, and in that wind with no trees or anything, it would have been difficult setting up a tarp. So I've got that filming lamp right in my eyes. I'm conscious that I might need it. I'm also aware that my glasses are not very clean, so I can't really see you at all. Let me hold you up a little bit. So yeah, tent chat. I made a gear video for this outing, this trip, and I'm going to upload it before I release the video of this trip. And I'm not sure whether I'm going to release this trip in one long movie or in 2 episodes. I'll just have to see how the footage all stitches together. My original plan was to release it in 2 episodes, but I also planned to film a lot more than I did. But I was really enjoying the movement today, and that came about because I managed to get a forecast for Thursday, and it's pretty terrible. And so I didn't really fancy a long day in the rain. Monday was a long enough day in the rain. Glorious day today. Dry day tomorrow. I'm not sure if it's going to be a nice day, but it's going to be a dry day, and very little wind. So I'm going to get an easy day tomorrow, and I'll probably just finish up tomorrow. So it'll either be a gear loadout video, which is about half an hour, I think, and a single episode, or a single movie, or it might be a gear loadout plus 2 episodes. We'll just see how it goes. Anyhow, yeah, I mentioned the gear chat, the gear loadout video, because I do get a few questions about, you know, what I take when I'm on these cycling trips or canoeing trips or hiking trips. So I put everything in that I'm carrying. The only change that I've made is I brought the big tent, but I think when I was making the video I said that I might bring the bigger tent because more real estate, and actually I'm really glad that I did that because it's really comfortable in here. I've actually got my panniers in with me tonight. They're a wee bit mucky, but they're dry, they're bone dry, so they're not making the tent damp or wet. So and it just makes it easier to get a hold of any gear that I need. It basically means that I don't have to unpack very much. I can just dive into the pannier, get what I need, use it, and then when I'm finished with it, throw it back in the pannier. So yes, so that's the only change, the bigger tent. But what I didn't put into the gear loadout video was anything to do with clothing. I did mention that I was going to take either a thin outer layer, a shell layer for the rain and the wind, or a thicker layer, a heavier Gore-Tex layer, depending on what the forecast was. In the end, I made a little bit of a compromise, so I had heavier leggings, and but I used my Packlight top, both of them made by Arterax. So about clothing, you probably, some of the viewers will scratch your head at the kind of gear that I wear in the hills, and you'll be wondering why I don't wear any technical gear. Well, if you've followed the channel, you'll see that I've got a gear room, which is my garage converted, with all the racking and all the gear sorted out. And I've got technical gear for pretty much all the temperate parts of the world, from the high mountains with Arctic or polar type gear that will allow me to go up to 6,000 meters, and I frequently went up that high. The zone that I worked in for plant conservation was between about 4,000 meters and 6,000 meters. So I've got all that gear at home, and you see that from time to time when I go winter camping. And I did a bit of running when I was younger, so I've got a lot of technical running gear. I've got a lot of gear for the hills where I can move light and fast, and they're breathable, and they're wicking, and they're the flight series and all this sort of stuff. But actually I quite like just wearing my heavier clothing, so it's not everybody's cup of tea. Doing 3-4 days in the hills wearing a pair of wellies, but it doesn't bother me at all. And when I'm setting up the camera and things, if I want to dive off the track into the bog or into the heather, I can do that with my wellies on and not worry about getting wet feet. And also less chance of picking up ticks because I tend to spray my boots fairly regularly with 50% DEET. So yeah, I don't mind wearing the wellies, a wee bit hot on some of the climbs and fine and warm on the long descents. What else? Yes, I've got a cotton t-shirt on, and it got a little bit damp on the first day, but it soon dried out. So I'm not sharing this tent with anyone, so it doesn't really matter. This is a Swan Dry. This is a New Zealand piece of gear. I've got quite a lot of New Zealand equipment. Some of my rucksacks are Mac packs. I'm a big fan of Mac pack rucksacks. In fact, I've got 4 of them, varying from expedition packs right through to day packs. And the other gear that I use quite a lot is crux gear. This is a crux tent that I'm in, I think X2 Storm or something like that. It's a very, very old one. It's 25 years old. But I also have a Crux AK-47, which sounds like it should be loaded. That's my go-to rucksack for day trips to the hills. So yeah, so this is a Mac pack, and it's a waterproof one. So the waterproof lining is on the inside. It's wool on the outside, so it's quite heavy, but it's also warm, and even when the outer gets wet, it stays warm. It retains the heat really well. What am I wearing? What else have I got on? So yeah, just a couple of cotton t-shirts, one long sleeved and with buttons on it, and a cotton t-shirt underneath that. And then I've got Fjällräven trousers, which they're pretty old. I've never I waxed them once or twice when they were new, but I haven't waxed them for absolutely ages, so they don't shed any water. They're pretty thin now, actually, but they're warm enough. They do the job. And a leather belt, so onto which I clip a lanyard with my car keys, so that I never lose my car keys when I'm out and about. Can't take them out of my pocket, lay them down, and then cycle off or paddle away forgetting them. They're always attached to me. So that's it. I've got a Fjällräven beanie here. Soon be time to break out my heater hat with the big earmuffs on it, and all insulated and lined with a fur. But it's a bit too warm for that just now. So yes, very non-technical with the gear. It works for me. I know it wouldn't work for a lot of people, but I quite like it. Shaking this camera around, it's getting heavy, although it's just a tiny wee thing, just holding it out at arm's length like this. So I think that wraps up the tent chat for tonight, and it rounds off the gear chat video that you might have watched either a couple of movies back, or it might encourage you to go and have a wee look at it if you decided to skip that and just go for the main meal and see what it was all about, taking this bike for a spin round. So I'm going to kick back. I've got my telephone on charge there. I've got the other GoPro on charge. I'm going to have a drink of water, and I'm going to listen to some tunes. I'm going to read my book, and I'm going to turn in early and get a good sleep. Not in a particular hurry to get up and away in the morning, but I will check in with you again in the morning, breakfast time. So thanks for tuning in, folks, and if you listened to the tent chat all the way to the very end, a big thumbs up for you. You deserve a medal. Good night now.